lines close at 6 p.m. on the 4th of April. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. The top stories from the GB newsroom. Prince Harry has been accused of harassment and bullying by the chair of the charity he set up in Princess Diana's honour. Dr Sophie Chandauka has claimed the Duke of trying to sabotage the organisation before quitting earlier this week. She told reporters he wanted to eject her of the charity he founded in honour of his late mother. In response, we've heard from a source close to Harry and other trustees who left the charity Sentebale in solidarity this week. They said they fully expected this publicity stunt from the doctor. They remain firm in their resignation and look forward to the adjudication of the truth. The Home Secretary says plans for new checks on unauthorised working will help cut levels of illegal migration. Her comments come as the government will introduce tough new laws to clamp down on illegal working in the UK. Companies hiring people in the gig economy will now be legally required to carry out checks, confirming that anyone working in their name is eligible to work in the UK, bringing them in line with other employers. The term gig economy usually refers to short-term jobs, the most common examples including food delivery drivers and construction workers. That's all ahead of the government's first international summit on people smuggling gangs, which begins tomorrow in London. Elsewhere, rescue teams from around the world are in Myanmar after a powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck on Friday, killing 1,700 people. Experts saying the death toll could rise to 10,000. The UK government has pledged up to £10 million in life-saving aid. The UN's warning a severe shortage of medical supplies at the moment is hampering the response to the deadly quake as the search for survivors continues. Over 300 people are reportedly still missing. In neighbouring Thailand, the death toll in Bangkok has risen to 18, 78 still missing there. Hundreds are believed to still be trapped under the rubble of collapsed buildings. Back home, a 54-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a fire at a historic former station house which killed 3 people, including a 4-year-old girl. Emergency services were called around 10:30 p.m. on Friday to reports of a large blaze at a property in Rushden near Kettering. The other victims are believed to be a 30-year-old woman and a 23-year-old man, according to police. A man from Kettering was arrested on suspicion of murder yesterday and remains in police custody. And former Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, says he forgives serial abuser John Smith as he repeated an apology to victims and told of the deep sense of personal failure he feels about the handling of allegations. The former most senior bishop in the Church of England, who resigned in November and stepped down officially in January, said he'd not really thought it through enough when he initially declined to quit last year. The Makin report into John Smith concluded Mr Welby did not adequately follow up on reports about the Christian camp leader and barrister. It said Smith might have been brought to justice had Mr Welby formally reported the allegations to police in 2013. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more news in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good morning and welcome to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News. Happy Mother's Day to those to whom it's relevant. The Chancellor's spring statement has certainly kept Westminster busy. We'll be getting all of the reaction to that on today's show. Security Minister Dan Jarvis will join me. I'll be asking him about the government's latest bid to crack down on illegal working. Plus, what does he make of the bad reviews of Rachel Reeves's spring statement? I'll also be speaking to the Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burghart. I'll get his reaction to a new Ipsos poll, which found that the public would prefer Sir Ed Davey to be Prime Minister over Kemi Badenoch. Former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng, will be here in the studio. How does he think our current economic outlook compares to the aftermath of his own mini-budget? Tim Tozer, the former chairman and managing director of Vauxhall Motors, will be here. I'm going to be getting his reaction to President Trump's tariffs on the car industry. Welcome back. Joining me now is Security Minister Dan Jarvis. Minister, thank you so much for your time this morning. I'm going to start with a story that seems to be making a little bit of a ruckus. And sorry, it's not about immigration. We'll get onto that in just a moment. But it is this story about your Labour colleague, Taiwo Owatemi. Should she have used £900 of taxpayers' cash so that her cockapoo Bella can stay at her London home?
Well, good morning. I completely understand why you've asked me about that, and I'm sure the public will be wondering why it is the case that an MP is able to do that. That's why the government are going to make representations to IPSA, the Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority, about the rules, because we're concerned about rules. We don't think that it should be the case that somebody could do what's happened here. It is important to make the point that under the existing rules, she hasn't done anything wrong. But we don't think the rules are right, and that's why we're going to raise concerns with IPSA about it.
All right, thank you for clarifying that. Let's move on to Yvette Cooper's pledge to end jobs on tap for illegal immigrants. This is a crackdown on those working in the so-called gig economy. Having said that, Mr Jarvis, she still hasn't smashed the gangs, has she? We've had 30,000 arrivals by boat since Labour took power.
For 6 years, the previous government allowed the criminal networks that smuggle people into this country to largely get away with it. We are tackling their activities by working very closely with our neighbours internationally. And that's why we are hosting the summit in London over the next couple of days, because this is a truly international challenge. And the solution will have to be truly international as well. It will involve us, as we are, working very closely with the French, but with a range of other partners along the supply networks that people are trafficked along. So this is the UK showing real leadership in terms of bringing more than 40 countries from around the world together to look at what more we can do to tackle this pernicious activity.
Yes. You say the Tory government allowed people to get away with it. In what way is Labour not allowing people to get away with it? As of the 28th of March 2025, 6,642 people arrived illegally by boat. This is the earliest point in the year that crossings have reached that point since records began. So you could say that a record number of people have arrived here. In what way is that Labour taking any more action than the Tories did?
Well, I'm sure you'd also acknowledge that there have been 19,000 people who've been returned. So that's 19,000 asylum claims that has been refused, and 19,000 people who've been returned since we came into office. That is an increase of more than 20%. So there's significant activity with regard to returns. There's also very significant activity in terms of working with partners, not just with the French, and the French have made some very significant changes to the way that they will manage this particular challenge, which I think will deliver real operational effect over the coming weeks and months. But also look at the work that we're doing with Iraq. Iraq is a major hub for these smuggling networks. We've got an agreement with them. So a drawing together of this activity will mean that we are much better placed than was the case previously to target these criminal networks. The NCA have shifted some of their resource. There's been some additional investment from this government. So this is a difficult and challenging international problem, and we're working with our partners to get a grip of it in the way that the previous government wasn't able to.
Although doesn't it betray a lack of seriousness about tackling the issue of immigration, legal and illegal, to discover that there was barely a mention of the word immigration in Rachel Reeves's spring statement on Wednesday?
I'm not sure I necessarily sort of draw the link between the two. This government is absolutely clear about the priority that we attach both to reducing net migration, which obviously includes legal migration, but also targeting those criminal networks that are smuggling people into our country. We've got to do everything that we can, and we are. The French have made a number of very helpful changes to their operational policy. You may recall that during the Olympic Games, there was a massive reduction in the number of people who crossed the channel. We're going to move back to an arrangement such as that, which should have a significant impact on people crossing. And all of the work that we're doing internationally, not least in terms of the bringing together of 40 nations around the country over the next couple of days. So I'm confident that we will see very significant reductions. We're working at pace across government and with our allies, and absolutely it is a top priority for this government.
But I mentioned the spring statement because obviously the government has announced this crackdown on benefits. I found it staggering that the Chancellor didn't mention immigration in her speech when you consider that 1.2 million foreign nationals are claiming benefits and the universal credit bill for foreign nationals alone is 7.5 billion.
I mean, and that's one of the reasons why the Home Secretary has made an announcement that she'll be working with international partners on today about ensuring that business conduct right-to-work checks, because there is a particular issue at the moment with people who've come here, overstayed and are working illegally, but employers are not making the checks that are required in order to confirm who is able to work legally or not. So this eligibility check, which we will be introducing, will go a significant way to reducing the number of people who are seeking to work here in the UK when they're not entitled to do so.
OK, but the Chancellor's economic sums don't add up, do they, Mr Jarvis? On one hand, she says she is sticking to her non-negotiable fiscal rules, and we discover that she's borrowing 20 billion more over the next 2 years. She then made the claim that British householders would be £500 better off by the budget. Actually, in reality, this is what's going to happen to bills after April the 1st. Water up 26%, energy up 6.4%, broadband up 6.4%, council tax up 5%, trains up 4.6%, stamp duty up, tax up, mobile contracts up, TV licence up. So how on earth has she come up with this £500 figure?
Well, with respect, you didn't mention the economic inheritance, the fact that we inherited a massive financial
I'm talking about the £500 promise only, Mr Jarvis. Can we address that rather than talking about 14 years of Tory rule? How on earth can she promise £500? It's the same as Ed Miliband saying that there would be £300 off energy bills, when actually more than £300 has been added to energy bills since Labour took power.
But I hope that you and your viewers would acknowledge the very challenging financial circumstances that we inherited from the previous government. And yes, of course, the Chancellor has had to take difficult decisions in order to fix the foundations of our economy so that we are best placed to secure economic growth and invest in public services that have been run down over many years. The Chancellor has had to take difficult decisions, but we are confident that over the course of this Parliament, that will result in economic growth, which will allow us to more effectively invest in public services, which will improve...
I appreciate the economic inheritance, but to suggest that we're going to be £500 better off is a lie, isn't it? I've just given you the figures to suggest precisely the opposite will be true. So why is she telling lies in spring statements?
He isn't, and I think that is an unfair and unreasonable criticism. The Chancellor is doing a good job under very difficult circumstances. Yes, she's had to make some difficult choices. Yes, there have been some criticisms around those choices. But in large part, this is clearing up the mess that we inherited. And that is what this government will continue to do, to ensure that we take the tough decisions that the previous government shied away from, not least in terms of things like welfare reform, the measures that we've announced with regard to NHS England.
Hang on.
There is good news as well.
Right.
I mean, look at what the OBR said in terms of the work that we're doing on planning reform that will deliver a £6 billion uplift to our economy.
Although it's also been pointed out by the OBR that Labour will not hit its 1.5 million housing target by the end of the Parliament. But my question is this, Mr Jarvis, how on earth can it be credible for the Chancellor to have claimed, considering everything you've said about the economic legacy that you've inherited, the difficult situation the Chancellor herself has blamed world events, how on earth is it credible to suggest that the British public will be £500 better off after her budget and spring statement? It's an untruth.
Well, I know as a constituency MP that we are still living through the legacy of the cost of living crisis, and times are very tough for lots of people. But that is precisely why the government is making tough choices. That is why we are reforming welfare, because let's be honest about it, significant amount of money has been invested into welfare without the reforms that need to go with it. Look at the money that we've invested into the NHS, but the value that that is now adding in terms of reduced waiting lists month after
I'm going
month.
to ask one more time. Is the £500 claim true when I've listed all of the bills that are going to go up for householders after April the 1st? Is it true to say we're going to be £500 better off because all of the sums suggest precisely the opposite?
Well, I completely back what the Chancellor has said. She will look at this in the round. She will look at the costs that people will have to cover. She absolutely acknowledges the difficult circumstances that we're operating in. And that is why the government is taking tough choices to fix the foundations of our economy so that we've got the resource available there to invest in our public services for the benefit of the public.
Why do you think so many millionaires are leaving the country under Labour? One every 45 minutes. We now hear that the steel giant Lakshmi Mittal will be the latest to leave the country.
Well, in truth, and I mean this very respectfully, you'd have to ask them and not me. But what I can tell you is that we are pursuing a balanced economic policy. It is a basic principle that those with the broadest shoulders should carry the heaviest of load. But of course, we recognise the huge contribution that our wealth creators add to our economy. So I'm sorry if anybody takes the decision that they want to leave the country. Ours is a great country with very much to commend it. But people will have to make their own individual choices. But I don't agree with the inference that this government is seeking to encourage people to do that, because we are simply not. We want people to live here, to invest in our economy, to pay their taxes and contribute to our society. I mentioned the economic inheritance. We've had to take some difficult choices, but we've tried to do that in the most balanced way possible.
OK, Dan Jarvis, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Retrograde?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So this is 1955. It's a young Sidney Poitier, and we always think of him as this grand man of the cinema, lots of gravitas and dignity, but this is when he's still a young man, end of McCarthyism, start of civil rights movements. Studios and sponsors are terrified about anything related to socialism, un-American activities. He's just been in a few interesting projects, but he's teeing up for something on NBC on TV called A Man is 10 Feet Tall, written by his friend, and it's going to show him in a relationship, friendship with a white man, where the black man is the more dignified, the more professional one. And it's going to be quite radical. It's going to make him, and it's going to make his career, but NBC want him to sign an oath of loyalty, which is what happened in those days. This is all based on real events, where he would commit to doing absolutely nothing to embarrass the studio. They also want him to denounce Paul Robeson, who's a major activist.
Yes.
And go on radio and make a public denunciation. So he has to choose. There's the great line, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? And the lawyer just says, you gain the whole world. But for him, it's a difficult one. But then there's the idea that you can be blackmailed. He has been going to some meetings with activists and civil rights movements. FBI is very heavy-handed in those days. He's then told, hey, you don't sign, they'll be knocking on your door, you could go to prison, blah, blah, blah. So it's this whole tussle written by Ryan Calais Cameron, who did the previous play for Black Boys, which was all about mental health.
Yes.
Huge new talent.
By the way, it sounds like a great topic.
It's fascinating. It's 90 minutes straight through, so it almost plays like a film. Heavy subject, but very witty. All great performances. Ivana Jeremiah is in the lead, and he really captures the moment.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm delighted to be joined by the Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burghart. Thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning. I just want to pick on something I was discussing with Dan Jarvis about the spring statement. This claim the Chancellor has made that British householders will be £500 better off as a result of the budget and the spring statement. Do you think those sums add up?
No one is going to be better off as a consequence of the spring statement, Camilla. It's complete nonsense, right? This figure, I think if it's been plucked out of page 36 of the report, which says if everything goes right, by the end of the Parliament, by the end of the decade, some people will be a few £100s a month better off, a few £100s a year better off. But it doesn't take account of the fact that as of next week, everybody's energy prices are going up, everybody's water bills are going up, train fares are going up, and a lot of people are going to lose their jobs because of national insurance contribution changes. So it's just poppycock.
But Labour are saying this is the economic inheritance they were landed with after 14 years of destructive Tory rule.
Yeah, they would say that, wouldn't they? Fact is that the Labour Party inherited the fastest growing... No, it's not, because the Labour Party inherited the fastest growing economy in the G7, and because of the bad choices that Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer made last year, the economy is now in a bad way. The economy started contracting, and that's even before we get to next month, when these disastrous taxes on businesses come in, taxes on jobs come in, that will mean people aren't hiring, people aren't going to set up businesses, some businesses are going to go to the wall, and some people are going to lose their jobs. You can't have a growing economy if you put too much pressure on business. It's the private sector that grows the economy. No other part of, nothing else does it, and the Labour Party doesn't get that.
OK, so if the Labour Party is doing so badly in government, this means that the Tories are going to have a great local elections in May then?
No, so as you remember, Camilla, because you're a very experienced commentator, that we had a very good local elections 4 years ago, 2021. It was the vaccine bounce, and we had a very unusually good showing. And we expect to slip back from that position. We've obviously got pressure from Reform as well. So look, we're realistic about the local elections, but we'll be taking our message and our argument to the voting public every single day until that point.
But if Reform outperform you, what does that say about the future of the Conservatives?
Let's see how Reform do. They have not been doing as well in the local council by-elections over the past few months compared to their positions in the polls. So let's see how they actually do in a proper campaign. Look, me and my colleagues, we're out to get every single vote we can, and I was out campaigning yesterday and the day before. I'll be going out again on Monday once I've got Mothering Sunday out of the way, and we'll be making the case for the Conservatives.
But why have the Tories given up on Runcorn, seemingly? I mean, I appreciate Reform are the favourites to win that, Labour lagging behind, but it seems as if the Tories won't get a look in. You've just given up on it.
Yeah, well, I don't. We have. I think we're very realistic about our prospects in Runcorn. I don't think we've ever won Runcorn. So
you're not bothering.
But I'm sure that. We'll give it our best shot, but we'll be realistic about it as well.
What's happened to Lord Bamford? He once gave the Tories £3 million. I think in total he's given the Conservatives £17 million worth of donations. And now he's lent one of his JCBs to Nigel Farage for Reform's local election launch on Friday. Have you lost another mega donor?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him. What I can tell
you should know. He gives you a lot of money, doesn't he?
One of the most recent release of donations to political parties showed that the Conservatives under Kemi are considerably outstripping both Labour and Reform. So to date, all of this chat about Reform courting Tory donors, they haven't put their hands in their pocket. People are giving to the Conservative Party and to Kemi, and that's a good sign of confidence.
Although the public don't seem to share that confidence in Kemi. We've got an Ipsos poll which has revealed this week that when asked who they would prefer as Prime Minister, 28% said Farage, 27% said Starmer, 26% said Ed Davey. Kemi trailed them all on 18%. That's not great, is it, to be outpolled by the Lib Dem leader?
Those polls don't account for the number of people who say don't know, and they also don't take account of the fact that Kemi has all of those people you've named have been in frontline politics for a very, very long time. Ed Davey was around under the coalition. Nigel Farage has been around for donkey's years. Keir Starmer has been at the front of the Labour Party for about a decade. Kemi has only been leader of the Conservative Party since November, and I have every confidence that as time goes on, you're going to see those figures shift.
All right. Nigel Farage at a lobby lunch this week described the Tory shadow cabinet as a, quote, bunch of stuffy, boring old... What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think he's wrong, Camilla. And I think you probably disagree with it as well, because you know that actually the front bench of the Conservative Party is young, is full of ideas. Kemi had a very good speech that I know that you were at 10 days ago, where she took on net zero and said that we need a new energy policy that is going to drive down the cost of energy for British people, for British businesses, and for British public services. And I think that we're effectively the new show in town. And as time goes on, people will hear that message and realise that we've got the potential. But look, we suffered a big defeat last year, and we know we've got to do a lot of work to win back the confidence and trust of the British people. But we're engaged in that journey.
We'll just apologise for that language. It wasn't mine. It was a direct quote of Nigel Farage's, just to make that clear. Let's just quickly talk about...
It's quite early in the morning for that language,
well, it's got a certain meaning that is quite...
Early on a Sunday morning.
quite straightforward. I've used worse language, Alex, but not on the telly, as you know. When we look at the VAT,
I don't believe it.
When we look at the VAT on private school fees, an interesting revelation. The government has appointed 4 KCs to fight their case against private schools and a parenting group. All of them are privately educated. Meanwhile, we learn that Ellie Reeves, who is a Labour minister and happens to be sister to the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, thinks that all private schools should be abolished. Do you think that's actually the aim of this Labour policy, just to scrap all private schools?
Yeah, I sort of do, really. I think they definitely don't care about public schools, and they don't care about the children in them, and they don't care about the people who work at them. And they also don't care about the other local schools who are now going to have to take additional pupils, without additional money, additional pupils for those schools who close down. We're seeing historic English public schools shut every month because of this disastrous policy. And it's not just bad for the children who are at those schools, it's bad for everyone. So I just, I'm very pleased that the Conservative Party is committed to reverse it.
Yes, I noticed there was a story in the papers today to say that applications to state sixth forms had gone up exponentially because of the policy.
Right.
One final question. You'll be familiar with this story about the parents on the WhatsApp group being investigated by 6 police officers for questioning school policy. We've now got a Quaker meeting house having seemingly been sort of bombarded by the Met Police because people were holding a meeting there. In general, Mr. Burghart, do you think that the police are using a sledgehammer to crack a nut on freedom of speech while ignoring other significant crimes like burglary, theft and rape?
Yeah, as you would expect, my constituents in Brentwood and Ongar in Essex would much rather that the police were spending their time and precious resources going after burglaries, violent crime, disorder on the streets, than going after people who have criticised their schools on WhatsApp groups. So I really hope that that the police take this public criticism on board and look again at some of their procedures and priorities.
All right, thank you very much indeed, Alex Burghart, for joining us on GB News.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody
in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Former Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng, joins me in the studio. Good morning,
Hello.
sir.
Good
How
to
are
see
you? What's your reaction to the spring statement then? I know you've written for the Sunday Telegraph today, been quite disparaging. What's your overall view?
Well, look,
of it?
I think that we're in a position where, as Alex Burghart said, the Labour Party inherited an economic picture. It wasn't rosy, but we were growing. And also, you'll remember the OBR, only last October, said that the growth this year would be 2%. Now, what they did last week was they halved that projection. And the reason why they halved it, I think, not only, but the main reason they did that was because of what Rachel Reeves did in her budget at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Which, if you'll remember, she raised £40 billion in taxes. And most of that £40 billion was coming from businesses. It was coming from employers in the form of national insurance contributions. You'll remember the inheritance tax that was imposed on farmers and small businesses. And if you put up taxes on the wealth-creating part of the economy, you're going to disincentivize investment. You're going to stop or prevent people from wanting to invest. And you're going to have slower growth rates. And that's exactly what's happened.
Although she'll point out, first of all, that the world has changed.
Yeah, but governments always do that.
But
I said that in my piece.
is there a Trump factor involved
No,
here?
because they revised the figures a lot before Donald Trump announces tariffs, and we don't even know what the effect of the tariffs will be.
But then the OBR predicts we will go into growth subsequently.
So that's the key. There's the rub. So where they've predicted 1% growth this year, they've said that after that, in 2026, we'll have 1.9%.
Which isn't bad.
Which is good. And in 2027, we'll have 1.8%. But they can always revise those figures down. So when it comes to the budget in October, the OBR will come up with new figures. Yeah. And if for whatever reason, the numbers they've put in now for 2026 and 2027, if they revise them down, we're in exactly the same position.
So she's going to have to find more money.
Exactly.
And where do you think she'll find it?
So this is the big question. If the OBR is less hopeful about 26 and 27 in 6 months' time, she'll either have to do what she did now. She has to either reduce spending, and I think the tolerance of Labour MPs for more spending cuts will be zero, frankly.
Right.
Or she'll have to put up taxes. And that's where the left are. The left is saying we've got to tax the rich. That's always their knee-jerk reaction.
But she said she won't put taxes on working people.
Not on working people, but you could think of things like capital taxes, things like a mansion tax. So if you own a home in the southeast, you'll be very much in the firing line. If your home is worth over a certain amount, you could be in a position where you have to pay a percentage every year just for the privilege of living in your house.
What is to stop her borrowing more? Because I know she said she's going to be sticking to her non-negotiable fiscal rules, but we found out on Wednesday she's actually borrowing £20 billion more.
Sure. So I think publicly she'll say she's not going to be borrowing any more money because what happened to me and Liz Truss was all the market reaction. That's a very important thing. And so her signal to the market is I'm not going to borrow any more money. And if she does, then there could well be a reaction. But broadly, the problem we face, and I've said this repeatedly, is exactly the same one we faced for the last 20 years almost. We're not growing the economy. And the problem with that is if you've got more and more public spending, you've got deals with public sector pay, you've got more people, frankly, coming into the country, you have to spend more and more with less and less.
Yes.
And only if you can, and that's what I tried to do, only if you can actually solve and grow the economy, incentivise people to invest, then you can actually pay for the public services you want to see.
I mean, there's a degree of smoke and mirrors here because we've got this threatened Labour backbench revolt over spending cuts. They're not really spending cuts, they're just growth reductions.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
Public spending is still going to be 45% of GDP at the end of this Parliament. That's the same as Boris Johnson, which includes the COVID spending.
That's right.
So it's still high levels of government spending,
so, I mean,
high levels of tax. Tax burden's going to hit 37.5%. Under Blair in 2009, it was 32.5%, although government spending was high.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do we just have to accept now that we're going to be taxed until the pits
And it's
squeak?
interesting, because both Liz Truss and Rachel Reeves in the last Parliament talked about the doom loop. And that's exactly where we are. The doom loop is essentially one where you can't grow the economy, so the only way that you can get more money is to try and raise taxes. But by doing that, you can't grow the economy. So you're in this sort of vicious cycle. And this is, I'm afraid, very much what it appears to me that we're in.
What do you think is going to happen to inflation, first of all? Do you think that target of 2% by 2027 is going to be met?
I think it's difficult to see because, obviously, if you've got a global trade war, and this isn't the government's fault. I mean, we can speak more broadly about this.
That's the one thing we can blame Donald Trump for.
Well, it won't make inflation easier on the rest of the world if you've got tariff barriers.
Also, do you agree that, regardless of what the inflation figure is, the public aren't feeling it? No. They're not feeling it in their shopping baskets. No. They're not feeling it in their energy bills.
Yeah, I mean, this is the other thing. The energy bills are going up, and I think that's why Kemi was right to say, look, let's look at this net zero. I mean, I was a minister, I was very much beating the drum for net zero when I was energy secretary. No, I don't regret it. I think the world has changed. I think what happened with Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine and also the post-COVID kind of bounce that you had in places like, Southeast Asia, that meant that energy costs, gas costs went through the roof.
But how is the Chancellor able to claim that we're all going to be £500 better off as a result of her budget?
That's just smoke. That's just
the
government.
I asked Dan Jarvis about it. I can't understand how those maths work out.
It doesn't work out because all they're looking at is the kind of revenue side, and they're saying, well, we're putting money into people's pockets, but they're not thinking about the costs. They're not thinking about the increase in energy bills. They're not thinking about the increase in council tax that completely wipes out that £500.
This whole gilt yield situation is interesting, isn't it? They peaked at 5.17% 5 days after the mini-budget that Labour has said was so catastrophic. They're now at 5.29%.
So it's higher.
That's the 30-year gilt yields. 10-year gilt yields, again, they peaked at 4.6% 5 days after the mini-budget. They're now at 4.7%.
Sure.
I mean, has the budget been as catastrophic as your mini-budget?
Well, look, people go on about the mini-budget, but you've got to remember, and then I always make this point, the OBR predicted last October, so that was after the Tories had been and gone, after the Tory government had been voted out, the OBR came up with a prediction for UK growth in 2025, last October, and they said it would be 2%. So their prediction of 2% a few months ago took in everything that happened in the Tory government. And as Alex said, Alex Burghart, we were growing faster than any other country in the G7. After Rachel Reeves' budget, which saw all the tax hikes I've talked about, everything has been revised down. Now, you're right to say there are a couple of other things internationally. Let's be fair. But the main reason why they've halved that growth figure is because of Labour drastically increasing taxes. And you've seen the effects of that. I mean, with the non-dom status, Lakshmi Mittal, a big steel producer, anecdotally, people are leaving.
Millionaires going every 45 minutes.
Every 45 minutes, exactly. And that's where, and actually, just lastly, we've been here before. This is exactly what the 1970s were like in many ways, where you had very, very high tax levels, very successful people were leaving the country. And essentially, you had to have the Thatcher revolution to get us out of that hole.
Is Kemi Badenoch a Thatcher, though?
Well, I think it's early days. I think she was, tasked with a very difficult job, and it'll take time, I think, for her to have cut through. But I'm one for not panicking because, what can she do? Can she just try and out-reform? That wouldn't be plausible. She's got to carve out her own path.
Robert Jenrick's trying to out-reform.
I don't think that works because they might as well just vote for the real thing.
Yeah.
There's no point trying to be a kind of tribute act to another party.
The thrust of your Sunday Telegraph piece is that this is the beginning of the end for Labour. Do you believe that?
Yeah,
we're only 1 year into a four-year Parliament.
I get that, but
I mean, we're not even 1 year in, are we?
If they don't get the growth that they promised and that they've staked everything on, all you're going to see is higher public spending and higher taxes. And I think in that context, it'll be very difficult for them to get re-elected. Now, it's silly to predict these things, especially 4 years out, but one can see how this might end, and I don't think it'll be good for the Labour Party.
Do you get the impression that Rachel Reeves is out of her depth? I say that because you've had her job. You know how difficult it is.
It is a hard job, but also I think...
This whole inflation of the CV and pretending she's got more experience...
Yeah, those things were silly. Those things, I don't know what she was doing.
Is she cut out for this job?
So I think that she's essentially a creature of the Labour Party and a creature of Keir Starmer. So the question you have to ask yourself is, if she's not there, which of these Labour MPs would do anything differently? I don't think any of them would.
But he can't sack her, as you know from personal experience.
That's right.
A Prime Minister sacks a Chancellor and they're basically sacking themselves.
I think it's a form of political harikiri, a political suicide for the Prime Minister to do that. And that's my lived experience. I think Liz Truss lasted 6 days after she sacked me. I mean, I said
so if anything happens to Rachel Reeves, it's going to have to be by Rachel Reeves' design.
Yeah, I think what they'll probably do is they'll have a conversation if she moves on. And they'll say, maybe you can be shuffled into a different department. But I can't see her...
Will it? I mean, that could be catastrophic.
No, it would be damaging. But to sack her entirely from the government, I think, would be a disaster for the Prime Minister.
Kwasi Kwarteng, thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
Lovely to speak to you.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. We continue to stay unsettled across central and eastern parts of the Mediterranean with further heavy showers and thunderstorms, some localised flooding possible. Through Monday, we can see across much of Greece into Italy those heavy downpours continuing, some brisk winds, feeling quite cold too, but drier further west into Spain and Portugal, sunny spells before heading over to Madeira, where there'll be some showers here, and largely dry across the Canary Islands. Over the next few days, it stays fairly similar, temperatures in the sunshine reaching the low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We've got plenty of fine weather in store across the UK during the week ahead. Lots of warm sunshine to look forward to, but a bit of a cooling breeze too. High pressure starting to build in from the southwest now, low pressure moving off to the east, and it's this area of high pressure that will bring much quieter conditions to the UK as we go through the coming few days. Looking at things though in more detail for the overnight period, cloud across the north and east of the UK will tend to melt away to leave a lot of clear weather for a time overnight tonight, but notice towards the northwest there, clouds starting to increase again from off the Atlantic as we head into the early hours. We could see some patchy rain across the far north and west of Scotland by the morning on Monday. Turning frosty across some southern parts, particularly in rural areas. Temperatures here down to -3, even -4 Celsius in 1 or 2 spots, but frost-free towards the northwest of the UK. So we start the new working week then with plenty of sunshine across the east and southeast of Scotland, a bit on the chilly side here. Cloudier towards the north and northwest with some outbreaks of rain, particularly across the northern and western Isles. Across Northern Ireland, mostly dry, but again, a fair bit of cloud around and some cloud across western parts of England and Wales, with the best of the sunshine at this stage across central and southeastern parts of England after quite a chilly start. We hold on to a good deal of sunshine across England and Wales as we go through the day on Monday. Always more in the way of cloud though as you head further north and northwest. That cloud thick enough towards the north and west of Scotland to give some patchy rain at times. Perhaps an isolated shower elsewhere across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, but certainly the best of the sunshine the further southeast you go. And fairly warm again in the sunshine, up to 16 or 17 Celsius, even reaching 17 or 18 across the Moray Firth of Scotland. Cooler though towards the northwest of Scotland. As we head into Tuesday, after a chilly start, lots of sunshine in store, almost wall-to-wall sunshine, in fact, across the bulk of the UK. Once again, feeling pleasantly warm in the sunshine, out of the breeze, certainly, with temperatures into the mid, locally upper teens in Celsius. And we hold on to a good deal of sunshine across the UK during the rest of the week, and those temperatures still doing quite well too, but with some chilly nights, even a touch of frost in places still.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Former chairman and managing director of Vauxhall Motors, Tim Tozer, joins me now. Thank you so much for your time today. You're a great person to speak to about this. These damaging tariffs that Donald Trump is planning to enforce against the British and indeed the rest of the EU on this so-called Liberation Day on April the 3rd. And I hadn't realised, Tim, that actually 8 in 10 cars produced in Britain are exported. And of those, the US is the UK's largest single market by country, accounting for 6.4 billion worth of car exports by 2023. That's 18.4% of the total. So this is going to be catastrophic for the industry, isn't it?
It is not good news at all. There are some particular manufacturers that are going to be seriously exposed, most notably Jaguar Land Rover.
Yeah.
The volume of shipments from the UK into the USA is about 100,000 cars a year, as you said, worth about 6 billion. It's very material. I mean, I think just very briefly, it's worthwhile trying to understand what Trump is up to, because he wants to encourage manufacturing in his USA market, as well as boosting demand. I mean, for example, he is looking at making, and this is with the Senate at the moment, interest on loans for cars that would be manufactured in the USA would be given a tax credit. So he's aggressively going for his electorate, essentially, and it has a cost to us, most definitely.
How should the government be dealing with this? I mean, some have suggested retaliatory tariffs. Others have said that we should be maximising our Brexit advantage because, of course, we could perhaps negotiate outside of the EU and any discussions that those European countries are having with Trump. What do you think they should do?
I think this government, our government, should be pursuing every angle. And I think with the minister out there, I think if he's still out there, trying to negotiate a carve-out, I mean, that is an obvious way forward. I mean, the question, of course, is whether or not, in the way that Trump sees the world, will be given a let. I mean, we think we understand the fact that he is not very much friends of the EU. They clearly irritate him. The fact that we voted for Brexit is almost a plus point from his perspective. So that concept of a carve-out is absolutely to be pursued. I mean, I think from what I understand in the media, that it's proving heavy work. There's no certainty. I think there's talk of this Wednesday we might get a feeling for whether that carve-out is going to be possible or not. So that's the first thing that should be tried. In the event that that does not work, does not come to fruition, I mean, I think it would be unwise to put retaliatory tariffs against them, at least for the short term. I mean, I think there are other candidates, frankly, that we could be thinking of putting tariffs on. We're the only developed major UK market that is letting Chinese imports in FOC without tariffs. And I think that is an oddity given the amount of support the Chinese authorities have given their industry, which has given them now a very strong position, particularly with electric vehicles.
Yes.
So there's an awful lot swirling around at the moment. And I think the other element that is causing great angst in the UK market and for UK manufacturers of cars is the ZEV mandate, which was born in a different era, which is now being absolutely overtaken by events. I mean, last year there were 24% as the target of electric cars. That was missed. The government is pretending that it's all okay because they send out press releases saying that no automaker paid a fine. I mean, there's a lot of poetic license in that. They claim it's due to the flexibilities of the mandate. What that means is certain manufacturers might well be buying credits from Tesla, for example, or from the Chinese, which is pretty outrageous, actually, in that we should expect this government to revisit the mandate radically to ensure that all of the penalties within the mandate, which is £15,000 per car fine if you do not meet that target, which is completely paralysing the industry. I mean, I know people in the industry who are trying to do nothing other than avoid the £15,000 fine per unit when they should be thinking about how they could sell more cars and create a stronger used car market, a stronger new vehicle market in the UK. So there's
should we go further though, Tim? Should we go further and actually say that the government should scrap the ban on petrols and diesels? People aren't wanting to buy electric cars. They're too expensive. There aren't enough charging ports. Actually, diesels and petrols have never been cleaner comparatively with 20, 30, 40 years ago, and it's absolutely crippling the car market. I mean, you must have been as sad as I was, having grown up next to Luton, to see that Vauxhall factory in Luton now threatened with closure.
Well, and now has closed last week. I mean, Camilla, you're right. The consequences of the mandate are terribly serious. I mean, UK car production last year was as low as it was in 1954.
Thank you very, very much indeed for joining us on GB News this morning. Tim Tozer, former chairman and managing director of Vauxhall Motors. Doesn't make any sense, any of this arbitrary targets that are jeopardising one of our main industries in the UK. Madness, total madness. I'll be back next week at 9:30. Enjoy Mother's Day, and here's your weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We've got plenty of fine weather in store across the UK during the week ahead. Lots of warm sunshine to look forward to, but a bit of a cooling breeze too. High pressure starting to build in from the southwest now, low pressure moving off to the east, and it's this area of high pressure that will bring much quieter conditions to the UK as we go through the coming few days. Looking at things though in more detail for the overnight period, cloud across the north and east of the UK will tend to melt away to leave a lot of clear weather for a time overnight tonight, but notice towards the northwest there, clouds starting to increase again from off the Atlantic as we head into the early hours. And we could see some patchy rain across the far north and west of Scotland by the morning on Monday. Turning frosty across some southern parts, particularly in rural areas. Temperatures here down to -3, even -4 Celsius in one or two spots, but frost-free towards the northwest of the UK. So we start the new working week then with plenty of sunshine across the east and southeast of Scotland, a bit on the chilly side here. Cloudier towards the north and northwest with some outbreaks of rain, particularly across the northern and western Isles. Across Northern Ireland, mostly dry, but again, a fair bit of cloud around and some cloud across western parts of England and Wales, with the best of the sunshine at this stage across central and southeastern parts of England after quite a chilly start. We hold on to a good deal of sunshine across England and Wales as we go through the day on Monday. Always more in the way of cloud though as you head further north and northwest. That cloud thick enough towards the north and west of Scotland to give some patchy rain at times. Perhaps an isolated shower elsewhere across parts of Northern Ireland and Scotland, but certainly the best of the sunshine the further southeast you go. And fairly warm again in the sunshine, up to 16 or 17 Celsius, even reaching 17 or 18 across the Moray Firth of Scotland. Cooler though towards the northwest of Scotland. As we head into Tuesday, after a chilly start, lots of sunshine in store, almost wall-to-wall sunshine, in fact, across the bulk of the UK. Once again, feeling pleasantly warm in the sunshine, out of the breeze, certainly, with temperatures into the mid, locally upper teens in Celsius. And we hold on to a good deal of sunshine across the UK during the rest of the week, and those temperatures still doing quite well too, but with some chilly nights, even a touch of frost in places still.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you could spruce up your spring, as we have an incredible £17,777